Burning Issy, Melvin Burgess. Chapter 8. The next day was a Friday, the 9th of our bewitching. Gil had become delirious. I waited long enough. I owned nothing but my bedding, my clothes, the doll Gil had made me, and the pretty copper bracelet Nat had given me when I was 10. I left the bracelet behind because I knew it would be stolen at Melvin Tower. I left a set of clothes behind too, smock, leggings and vest. I remembered what had happened to the vest I gave to Jeanette. All I had to do was wrap my doll in my leggings in a smock, and the whole lot in my blanket, and I had everything that was mine under my arm. Outside, the blue sky was showing through the cloud. The breeze was blowing smoke down through the smoke hole, so that everything was cloudy and our city faces stung with the bitter blue smoke. Nat sat and stared at the fire and packed my bundle. He said nothing. I was quickly finished. I picked up the bundle, looked at him. I felt no pain or sorrow, just embarrassment. I waited awkwardly, not knowing how to say goodbye. "Where are you going?" he said at last. "Melvin Tower." He nodded. Better than to Lancaster Jail," he said. He stood up, tried to put himself together. "We'll tell Gil," he said. "Then we can have breakfast together. A good meal for you. You'll need it. I don't suppose there's much at Melvin Tower." Gil lay in a heap of blankets on the corner behind that rug. Nat had hung from the wall to keep the smoke away. He was muttering when Nat shook him awake and turned to look at us. "I'm going today, Gil," I said. "Up to Demdike. You'll be all right now." "You're really going?" he asked. I nodded. He grabbed my sleeve. "Get the mannequin first," he hissed. "She'll cheat us. Get the mannequin first." Nat clapped his hands. "That's right," he exclaimed. "It's a clear day today. They'll most likely be out begging. We'll go to Melvin Tower and bargain with them this evening. That means we've got hours yet, almost a whole day together, Issy." The thought we had that time before has cheered us both up, as if my sentence to Melvin Tower was a lifetime away rather than a few hours. Nat suddenly burst into life. He began to turn breakfast into a celebration. There were young pullets running around the yard, and he declared, that we would have one for breakfast. He ran out into the yard to kill it, and it set me plucking it for a while, built up the fire and baked some flatbread. "Meat and bread and beer for breakfast, like two fine gentlemen," he cried. He drew a jug of ale, the good October beer, not the weak, small beer for everyday use, and we began tippling as we got ready. We both had empty stomachs, and I wasn't used to it at all. I was only allowed a small drop at festivals. Everything took on a carnival air. Nat singing his head off, pulling away like the bellows of a blacksmith, filling the whole cottage with the gusts of thick black smoke. Me flinging handfuls of feathers around like confetti, and both of us dashing about, dripping pans, the spit or just banging pots together, a pair of delighted shadows in the thick smoke, coughing and wheezing and giggling, as if we all had a birthday on the same day. By the way, sorry to interject, but that reminds me, my birthday tomorrow, So have plans, probably won't read. Sorry. Nat cut the chicken up and spitted it and basted it in the butter. And an hour after we'd been chasing it up around the yard, we were dipping the hot bread in the dripping and smacking our lips. Gil couldn't stomach it and lay back in bed muttering to himself again. I stared at him, thin-lipped, pale, talking to no one, and I thought of Demdike and the others waiting for me up on Pendle Hill. In that moment, all the happiness ran out of me, as if I were a pot and the bottom had fallen out. I chewed up at the meat and tried to look cheerful for Nat's sake. He winked at me over the top of a chicken leg. I thought it might never see that wink again, and before I could stop myself, I began to cry. Once the tears came, I couldn't stop them. Our little show of happiness had melted that cold flower of ice in my heart, and now I myself, again, nothing to hold me up, I just wept floods of tears. Helpless to do anything to stop myself, Nat came around to comfort me. We were just showing it off to ourselves, weren't we? He murmured. He held me while I cried myself out. We have to be practical about it, he said at last. We'll look about and see how much we can find for you to take along. Maybe some presents for them. They might treat you better if they think you'll bring them things. I've got some old clothes you can take. But first, let's eat our chicken. You'll need something in your stomach today, even if you don't feel like it. We did our best with that bird, but none of us had much of an appetite. Afterwards, Nat got up and began ransacking the house in an effort to find things for me to take. There was precious little at this time of year. He found some cheese at the end of last year's bacon, some vegetables stored from last autumn, and a handful of dried peas. I didn't want him to give the things away he really needed, things that would be more useful to me in the house, were it not to be stolen, or at least run round and down and take some. When we finished, we sat inside with Gil. We had hours to go before the witches came back for their begging. Nat tried to take my mind off it, but it was no use. Gil muttered away in the corner, reminding me of Demdike. The burn, the arm reminded me of the hellfire and the parson had promised me. Nat suggested we do some work preparing herbs and medicines to take our minds off it. We worked steadily away, sorting out seeds and leaves, grinding, mixing and cutting until lunchtime. I was actually beginning to long for the evening, so that the ordeal of waiting would be over and I could begin my new life. Nothing could make the time pass quickly. We sat together at the end of the table, stared at our messes of our gruel with our spoons, staring down and not looking at each other. I was fighting back my tears, and Nat had pushed away his plate and was fingering a lump of bread when somebody pushed the door open abruptly and walked in. She was a tall, plump woman, dressed in a long wax cape and with proper leather boots on her feet. She was covered in mud from head to toe. She'd obviously come a long way on foot. "Issy's in trouble," she said. It was not a question, but a statement. She peered down through the smoke to our faces. "What a miserable looking pair," she exclaimed. She opened up her mouth in wide delight and let out a long gurgling laugh that made us both smile at her despite everything. She kicked off her boots and came in, and with no invitation joined us on the bench, pulling off her leather gloves. She offered me her hand, still concealed by a thin woolen underglove. "I hand style," she said. She held her hand out to Nat and giggled at its expression, which had changed from one to total misery to total surprise. "That bundle of rags has come a long way since I gave her to you in Cologne Market Street, man. In Cologne Market Street, wise man." She grinned at me and nodded towards Nat. "I made a good choice, didn't I, Issy?" She sat down, gurgled her curious, bubbling laugh again, and then said, "Now, tell me all about it. What's wrong with the boy?" Ioana's style had no grand manners, but you couldn't help being impressed by her. She listened to our story with a practical air, as if she were a carpenter being given instructions for a table or a chair. But there was an intensity about her, and you felt that it was her body and soul occupying things that were listening. "We must get the mannequin back then," she said when we finished. "They won't part with it, not for gold," said Nat. I untwisted a long bag off her back and patted it. "There are things witches love more than gold, and there are things they fear. If I have to use them—" I looked curiously at the bag, but she caught my eye and shook her head. "But first, I have to ask another favour, wise man. I have come a long way on oatcakes and water." She turned her head and smiled fondly at the chicken on the table. As she ate, I watched her. She smiled and winked. Had she known I was in trouble? What was I to her that she had travelled so far on foot in stinking weather to rescue me? I remember that Demdike called me Isabel, a star. This woman shared my name. That evening, Owain set off on foot in the Malkin Tower to bargain with the witches for Gil's life and soul. She flung her bag over her shoulder and patted it with a smile. I wondered again what she had in there, and seemed to know what I was thinking, because she winked at me and said, £2 a codswallop and £1 a toad. I laughed at that, but Nat didn't look at all happy. "It takes a witch to deal a witch," he muttered, as he watched us trudge up the muddy path to Pendle Hill. He looked sideways at me. God will forgive us accepting her help today. She was only gone a few hours. She walked right up into the house again without knocking, put down a bag by the door, reached into a cape and brought out the mannequin. Gil's hair was twisted about it, but it had melted away until what was left was a vague outline. As much like a candle as a human figure. "The most expensive candle I ever brought," remarked Ian. She didn't tell us what she'd paid. "It didn't look much like him, does it?" she added and grinned. "I think a bit of cheating wouldn't go amiss." She went over to the fire to warm the mannequin up, and then set to work on it. She pinched it and pulled it. A few seconds later, held it out again, and she remodelled Gil's face. "Hocus pocus," she gurgled happily. Gil was very sick, and Nat was half convinced it was already too late. Ian had no such more doubts. She put the mannequin in his hands and watched while he examined it carefully. At last he nodded, sighed, cradled it to his breast, and closed his eyes to go to sleep. Ian got down on her knees by his side and felt his hand, then his pulse. "We'll have another look at him in an hour or so, see if he needs any help," she said. "And now, I've been travelling for 2 days. I've not had a wink. Where can I sleep? Nat showed her his bed. She fell straight into it, pulled the blankets over her head, and in another second began snoring loudly. Nat and I looked up at one another in amazement. Well, he said, that's that, I suppose. End of chapter 8. Take care.